Good morning. This is Dina Marie with a Franciscan Moment on Mater Dei Radio. The history of the Franciscan order is a long and fruitful one. Founded by St. Francis in 1209, the Franciscans are dedicated to the apostolic life of poverty and preaching. But did you know that the Franciscans consist of three orders? The first order comprises priests and lay brothers who have sworn to a life of prayer, preaching, and penance. The second order, founded in 1212, consists of cloistered nuns known as the Poor Clares, while the third order consists of religious members and laypersons who observe Franciscan principles in teaching, charity, and social service. With me today to discuss the beauty of Franciscan life is Father Dan Pattee, Franciscan Friar and member of the Third Order Regular. Good morning, Father Dan. Thanks for coming back during our summer season.
Oh, you're welcome. Good to be with you again.
Well, I know last time that we talked, you were getting ready to head off for a week-long meeting with the rest of your community for a particular chapter in Loretto, Pennsylvania, which I was not familiar with the Loretto. It put that on the map for me. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about this Third Order Regular. You're part of the Most Sacred Heart, or the Sacred Heart of Jesus province, and this idea of having a chapter and gathering for a regular meeting. What's this all about for the Franciscan community?
Well, every 4 years we have three choices placed before us to elect our provincial. So the provincial, who's the leader of the province, kind of, I guess if you want to put that in more familiar terms, you'd say the CEO of a corporation, although it's not quite operates the same way. The model for this is, of course, Christ himself as servant, but he's the provincial and we elect him, and we're given three choices on how to do that. One is by mail election and ballot. A second is by chapter delegates, and the delegates get together and elect him, and membership sends delegates that they vote on there. Or the other third way is chapter of the whole, and we all go and elect him. And that's what we chose this time. 2 weeks ago, all of us, all the members of the province got together in Loretto, Pennsylvania, and we elected our provincial and his vicar, who is the vicar provincial, the second in charge, and then 4 council members who help govern the province and implement our strategic planning for the next 4 years. And that's what the chapter is all about, is electing our leadership.
And tell us a little bit, Father Dan, just about, we were talking off the air about Loretto, Pennsylvania, just some of the significance of the presence of the Franciscans there. It kind of surprised me, a little bit of where you met, and then the St. Francis University and some of the property right there.
Well, the St. Francis University began as the College of St. Francis. It's the oldest Franciscan university in the United States, founded in 1847 by the brothers of St. Francis from Ireland. And they had established this charter to start this college in 1847. And in 1910, they got together with some Brooklyn brothers from Brooklyn up in New York and some other brothers from Spalding in Nebraska. And these three groups petitioned Rome, the Third Order Regular, to switch over to the Third Order Regular. And in 1910, that's what happened. And it happened in Loretto. And they began then, they weren't going to be only a lay brother community, but it also included now priests. So some of the brothers began to study in seminary to become ordained priests. And that's what began the Sacred Heart province in 1910 in the United States here, where the Third Order Regular sent someone from Rome to bring together this amalgamation of these three groups that wanted to join.
Right. So you've got St. Francis University, and then across the property is where you met. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, that story, because, of course, the community of brothers and they're in our necrology. We pray for them as deceased brothers. They go back to the 1840s, that's when the college was founded, 1847. And so we built up back then in the early 1900s a house, a big, huge building. It was called Old Main. It was all made out of wood. It had St. Francis College in there with the classrooms. It had our novitiate, the postulancy. It had the prep school, the college prep school was in there for the high school boys. All this was housed in this huge 3-story building, and in the early 1940s, it burned down to the ground. And the friars lost everything in the fire. And so what happened was some friends of St. Francis, there was an old dilapidated mansion across the street from the college that formerly belonged to the steel magnate Charles Schwab. He was a multimillionaire at one time. He lost everything in the 1929 crash of the stock market and basically died a pauper up in New York. And then this home that he built in Loretto was like this mansion, and it just got dilapidated and overgrown with weeds. Well, when our place burned down, some friends of St. Francis paid the taxes on it and then handed it over to us, and that became our new home. And so that's where we now have our, I guess you'd call it our mother house, the center of our province. The provincial leadership is there. And we also have our retired friars living there as well.
Right, right.
And
Now you mentioned
it's right across the street from St. Francis University.
it's just amazing, and what a great gift to have that given to the friars to continue on the tradition and to continue on prayer, because I think there was something you mentioned to me about prayer and Charles Schwab's desire to have some prayer for him from his sister.
Yeah, his sister, actually, kitty corner to the property we have, the Charles Schwab Mansion, is a Carmelite monastery, and Charles Schwab's sister joined the convent and said, "I'm going to pray for your soul for the rest of my life." And so Charles turned around and he said, "Well, then I'm going to build you your monastery." And he built an exact replica of the Lisieux Carmel in Lisieux, France, and built it right there in Loretto. And the Carmelites are still there to this day. It's a cloistered convent of Carmelite sisters that live there. We've been their chaplains since their founding, and the TORs have, and we're still their chaplains. We have mass for them and supply the sacraments and everything. So it's quite remarkable, this relationship there and this outgrowth of religious life in this small town of only 200 people, Loretto, Pennsylvania.
Wow. Oh, I hadn't heard it before. I read that you were having your meeting there, and so I thought, wow, how interesting. And then I looked on the website for St. Francis University. I mean, the shrine and the gardens. I mean, it's quite beautiful when you just look at the photos. I'd love to be able to visit. Tell us a little bit just about how you can see the Catholic faith come alive at the university property and just in that Loretto, Pennsylvania area.
Well, it's in terms of Mother Nature, the university, it's my alma mater, and it's a beautiful campus. It's just so green there. I was just there, like being in Texas, it's 105, 110 degrees. It's so brown and dry. I was there and I just was struck by how green and how moist the grass is. And the trees and the overgrowth. And it's called, St. Francis University has the subtitle College Among the Pines, because it really is outdoor. It's in the Allegheny Mountains. And in the fall, for example, the Allegheny Mountains just look like a bowl of sherbet with all the color, it's just so beautiful. And then, of course, the sunken gardens were where Charles Schwab used to throw some of his big soirees for all of his wealthy friends, like the Carnegies, the Mellons, and all these people would come and visit with him, and they'd have all these big parties. And he had the capital sins in statue form in the sunken gardens.
Oh, my.
Which people hauled them off, and over the years when it was dilapidated, we never did recover those. Of course, we put the statue of the Saint Therese in there instead, and this kind of thing. And there's reflective pools in there that he had put in, and we maintained all those and rehabilitated them, and it's just beautiful.
Oh, wonderful. I'm talking with Father Dan Pattee, Franciscan Friar. They just came back from their chapter meeting and electing some of their provincial and other members to continue on the Franciscan order. This is the third order friars, and what a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about our Franciscan history right here in the U.S. Father, I'm coming up to a break, and I want to talk a little bit more about the Franciscans and the rule that you live by, and just give us a little insights on that. But why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back in the next half an hour and continue our conversation.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dina Marie.